super excited to be with you here today this morning because we get to combine two things which I really love, sustainability and football. And so we're going to be talking a bit about Barcelona, and I'm reliably told there's about 400 million Barcelona fans around the world, so I'm pretty confident that we're going to have at least a couple here in the room today. So you may be just as excited as me about this next sort of 20-minute session we're going to do. And if you have been fortunate, as I was a number of years ago, to go and see Camp Nou and see a football match there, although it was largely a disappointing experience as my Chelsea football team did lose there. But you will have seen the stadium, and it is big and it is spectacular, but it is fairly clear that it is needed of a bit of a redevelopment. And that's going to be the focus of our session today, because we're super lucky to have Olivier Albrecht, who is the CEO and founder of Artemita, and they're working with FC Barcelona on that green redevelopment of the stadium, and going to step us through what that looks like. Where they're going to have an opportunity for some questions from you, so do think up the questions. I don't know how much of a football expert Olivia is, but you can try and ask her football-related questions, or we can try and focus on the redevelopment of the stadium. But get those questions going. I've got a few questions for her as well. But before that, I am going to run a video for you all to watch.
More than a stadium, more than a pitch, more than a Palau. The complete transformation of FC Barça. The heart of Football Club Barcelona, where feeling is born, where passion can be felt, where thousands hold their breath. The place where history is made and where the past is preserved. A new way to experience sport and to live it, to continue being leaders and pioneers, to secure the club's future with new assets and revenue streams. With greater capacity and versatility, ready to host major international sporting events. With the rightful recognition of each professional section, with a total commitment to sustainability and technology that blends in perfectly with the surroundings. To be an international leader once more, and to create a Barça experience worthy of the world's best team. The heart where a feeling is born. The Barça feeling.
Alongside building a state-of-the-art sports complex, this project drives a net-zero transition for one of the world's leading sports organizations. FC Barcelona's commitment includes advancing green energy, using carbon credits to offset hard-to-abate emissions, restoring biodiversity, and building a sustainable, inclusive future for generations to come. With a €1.5 billion financing challenge, achieving this vision requires innovation, commitment, and partnership. As a carbon investment manager, Artemita collaborates with organizations to design and execute net-zero transition strategies, guiding them toward a lower carbon model that is both financially sustainable and leaves a lasting economic legacy. Artemita partnered with FC Barcelona to make their vision a reality, minimizing emissions, developing a cost-neutral decarbonization strategy, creating future-proof financing, and providing operational support while aligning fans, communities, and sponsors around a shared purpose.
Excellent, fantastic. If that doesn't get you excited, nothing will. Gives me great pleasure inviting Olivia to come up and join me on stage, please. And Olivia is going to run through with you some of the work that Artemita is doing around this.
Excellent.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, Charles. While I might not be able to rattle off the recent stats in European Football Club, I do know Chelsea is not doing well. And I also do know that in the 100,000 stadium, you were absolutely in the minority because 95,000 seats of the 100,000 seats are dedicated to Barca fans. only allowing in 5,000 opposing team fans for each event that they host. So you were absolutely in the minority that day. So I'm Olivia Albrecht. I'm the CEO and founder of Artemeter. I wanted today to talk about our case study with FC Barcelona and think about it in the context of applying the same business model to other industries, potentially throughout Asia. I know so many of us have had the same experience, and Niraj from Marriott mentioned this earlier in terms of their own journey through sustainability and net zero, that you have a moment of making commitments and perhaps some loose targets for the future in terms of your net zero commitments, but haven't thought through exactly how to operationalize them, how to make that into a business plan. And at some point, stakeholders kind of wake up and say, wow, this is a lot harder than I thought, and we're going to have a serious plan put in place where we are thinking about both the profitability of the activity and also the cost. And so what we are going to do today in the next 10 minutes or so is going to walk through this case study of FC Barcelona's journey from that idea of net zero commitment to the actualization of that plan, and to do so in a way that no longer sees sustainability and net zero as just a cost center, but rather a profit center. We heard this yesterday from the speaker from Toyota talking about the ways in which we see sustainability programs most successful is when they are driving profits and business growth or reducing costs. And that is exactly what we did with this wonderful sports team. So first off, who is Artemeter? Artemeter is a carbon advisory and investment management firm. We are sitting at the nexus between supply and demand in the carbon markets, spanning from compliance markets, from CORSIA and Article 6 eligible credits, through to the voluntary market with an investment mandate that spans the globe in terms of where we're investing in projects. We're also very committed to working with a key set of partners around the world to help activate their net zero solutions and plans, and doing so in a way that taps into our expertise in science, financing, capital markets, innovative structuring, and also operations. We've worked with FC Barcelona to design a solution that, again, no longer thinks about sustainability as a cost center, but rather a profit center for the organization. Why are we focused on carbon? Well, as capital markets experts, we see that carbon is really a markets-driven solution to the vexing challenges of climate change. We are identifying that capital markets can play a critical role in solving the climate crisis, and that's why we're heavily invested and focused on the carbon markets. So who is FC Barcelona? FC Barcelona is many things to many people, and obviously with 140,000 members who own the club, they really own this motto of being more than a club. They're absolutely focused on sustainability and a commitment to the community across the globe and with all of their fan bases around the world. SBI Barça is a unique program where they have invested a 1.5 billion euro project to absolutely renovate the stadium and all of the complex in which they operate. This is harnessing an incredible agenda around sustainability, from solar panels to rainwater collection and geothermal energy. We've also embedded a lot of work around carbon to integrate that into their programming. When we think of the challenge around sports and entertainment, it's not always obvious that you would think of sustainability as being a major pressure point for sports and entertainment groups, but it absolutely is. There's regulatory pressure, financing pressure, consumer pressure, fan base pressure, and also internal stakeholders who are looking for more than the club had been originally able to offer. And so what we think of as a bold statement is that for sports and entertainment, sustainability is no longer an option, but rather a requirement for these organizations in order to captivate the next generation of fans, captivate the next consumer generation. When we think about the 18 to 24-year-old fan base, over 70% of them now expect that their clubs that they are absolute diehard fans of are actively thinking about and taking action around sustainability. So this is no longer a nice to have in the sports and entertainment space. It is an expectation from the fans of this next generation. We heard the same thing yesterday from our colleague at Formula One, who made the same statements about the expectations of that next generation of fans in the sports and entertainment space. Certainly, in the context of a 1.5 billion euro stadium rebuild on the financing side, you are seeing from the financing partners an expectation from clubs and others who are taking on these incredible capital rebuilds that there's a lens of sustainability that has to be pulled throughout that capital formation in order to satisfy the investors behind those purchasers of bonds and others to ensure that those activities are aligning to the investors' long-term sustainability goals. So it's no longer a nice to have in the sports and entertainment space. I love this chart because it visualizes so much of the work that we've talked about collectively over the past day and a half. This is really the hard work of sustainability officers and strategy officers throughout organizations. The top line is really showing us that our collective objective is to organically decarbonize through activities, whether it's lighting, as we heard from Signify, packaging materials, as we heard from Dow. Many others throughout the days have been talking to us about how they're building goods and services for all of us to help us organically decarbonize. That's absolutely our number one solution set, and we saw that through the activities of the club in terms of the renovations that they're doing to FC Barcelona. And yet the pink line is showing us that there's a fundamental reduction challenge. We can't get to zero through our organic decarbonization work. The gentleman just before talking about Signify with 90% reduction targets, but there's a reality that there will always be some residual carbon that we have to address through high quality carbon credits. And so that's the line that you see in turquoise over here, growing over time with this orange line, showing that over time, FC Barcelona will be investing in carbon projects to help them fund their carbon activities to ensure that they're able to achieve net zero by 2035. And in fact, you can see with the orange line that at some point they'll have actually a surplus of carbon, allowing them kind of a legacy or an endowment funding model that allows them to fund their carbon requirements for years ahead. So we're addressing the environmental impact, we're driving deep value, we're engaging with fans, so 70% of young fans who are looking for an alignment to sustainability with their sports teams, and we're ultimately enhancing sponsorship relationships. So many of you out here today represent organizations who sponsor sports teams, and you are working so hard with your own sustainability agenda. You want to partner with sports teams and others that you're sponsoring to ensure that there's an alignment of sustainability commitments. And that's absolutely what we can deliver with Barca as well. And ultimately, they're leaving a legacy. They're making an incredible impact within the organization, in the local community, and to the 400 million fans that they have around the world. So mechanically, how are we doing this? We're working with a model where we take micro contributions for the carbon liability associated with goods and services in the FC Barcelona business model. So think of ticketing and merchandising, identifying what the carbon liability is for each of those assets, and applying a micro contribution to the sales of those activities to then help fund and create a pooled income for funding into carbon credit purchases that ultimately offset the residual carbon in their business activities. So we move from a micro contribution model into a funding model that sits with transparency and oversight from Artemida and FC Barcelona, plus independent auditors that then fund the purchase of carbon offsets to address their residual carbon in their activities. And then ultimately, there'll be the surplus, which will allow them to invest directly in carbon projects that then they can use as effectively like a legacy fund or an endowment fund to fund their future activities, either utilizing those assets for their own carbon liabilities in the future, or potentially even generating revenue for themselves by being able to sell those assets into the market as well. So a 5-part solution set that allows them to create a profitable sustainability program that allows them to leave a long-term legacy for the club. The ultimate benefits here are that we've got fans, sponsors, people, and planet fundamentally impacted by this creative and innovative financing model. So number one, we've created a sustainable self-funding solution for them. Again, flipping the problem of sustainability on its head from a fundamental cost center to one that's actually generating revenue for them to fund the activities in their sustainability program and ultimately be able to build into an endowment model that leaves a great legacy. We also see that connectivity with consumers. Again, 70% of the fan base is looking for their clubs to take on the environmental impact that the business operations have, and that is exactly what we're able to do with a program like this. We're investing in high-integrity carbon projects around the world that are making incredible impacts in local communities and the environment around the world. And then ultimately, as we said, what we have seen is that through this program, Barca has been able to attract and retain and deepen the partnerships that they have with sponsors in order to, again, drive that business impact as opposed to thinking about all of these programs as simply a cost input for them. Lastly, let me just make a comment to say, we think this model is so incredible to talk to you all about today in the Asian markets because we think that while there's clear applicability in the sports and entertainment space, there are absolutely other industries that could apply the same concept of micro-contributions, funding the carbon offset purchases for residual carbon exposure in business operations that ultimately can fund and build an endowment model, a legacy model. So we think about that in the context of hospitality, certainly across the concepts around the entertainment space. We think about it in other industries where there's a clear connection point to consumers who are looking for more from their business partners, where we can add that concept of micro-contribution and self-funding mechanism to create sustainability into a profit center for organizations as opposed to a cost center. So I'll turn it back over to Charles and we can have a brief conversation, but thank you so much for the time.
Really interesting to hear about, you talk about the micro-contribution sort of model for this as well. Part of me thinks, is this just pushing the cost onto the fans of FC Barcelona? I'd like to hear a bit more about that, whether there's been any sort of challenges or pushback on that, and what potential learnings we could see for this type of model for sort of other businesses in other sectors, their customers, the communities they work with. Is it something you can see sort of rolled out for some of the other people in here? Because I don't think we have any other football company chairmen sort of in the room here at the moment. So the micro-contributions piece.
Yeah, absolutely. So the reality is for the sports and entertainment space and sports clubs maybe in particular, profits are thin and costs are high. So the ability for a club like Barca and any others to afford to purchase the carbon credits to offset their business activities is not available. Particularly in the context of thinking about this incredibly large stadium rebuild that will have a lot of embedded carbon liability in the actual build and reconstruction of the facility. So it's not an available price point. They can't do it. So the alternative is to do nothing. Or the alternative is to engage with their fan base and tell them exactly through a transparent process that these climate contributions are going to fund the offsetting of this incredible activity that was taking place to rebuild their stadium in their hometown. So yes, to a certain extent, it's passing along that cost, but that cost wasn't available in any other kind of circumstances. I think what we've seen in terms of other models that are very similar is in the hospitality space. In Costa Rica, in Hawaii, in Iceland, we have seen that other hotels and resorts have utilized climate contributions as a fundamental way to fund climate activity in the local region. And we have not seen any negative kind of follow through reduced consumers flowing through either of those countries or those regions. So far, from our perspective, and in particular with Barca, we've not seen any negative kind of flow through from a fan's perspective.
Well, I guess positioning it as sort of a micro-contribution sort of indicates that it's pretty small, so sort of a couple of % or something on a ticket price.
Exactly,
type of thing.
or cents.
Cents, couple of cents. Yep. Okay, and clearly if you can sort of display the trade-off, the benefits of it to the fans, they get onto it, because you showed the numbers of how many fans do want to have a sustainable stadium. So it's,
exactly.
It makes sense. Super interesting. Excellent. We only have a couple of minutes, but I'm going to call out for questions in the audience. Yes, excellent. Thank you, sir. We have one here just in the back row in the middle. I've got a few hands up here. I may run out of time, but I will come. Quick one here. If we can make the questions quick, and then I'm going to quickly come to the one in the front here as well. Just your name and title, please. If we could just get the microphone on. Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Tharindra Amarasekara, Senior Lecturer, PIM Business School, Sri Lanka. Olivia, just an extension on Charles's question. It seemed that, it's coming to the fans in terms of, you mentioned about the revenue collection for some of the efforts. Have any of the players got any skin in the game as well? Have any of the players shown any indication or interest towards contributing towards these efforts by the club? Because they're also equally a part of the whole game. Thank you.
Yeah, that's interesting. The employee contribution to this as well.
The
if you
employee,
like.
the incredible sports stars like Messi back in the day and so many others. I mean, I think we've had some initial earnest conversations with players to see if there's a role that they want to play as well. Certainly, I don't want to make a joke about it, but certainly in some instances there are players that have a significant payroll with Barca that would allow them to contribute as well. So it is something that we've had some active conversations around, and I think the players themselves are really excited to ensure that they have a club and a team that they live and breathe that has such a focus and fixation on sustainability. So it's absolutely something that they use to attract players to the club as well.
Yeah, and you can imagine, can't you, that if the fans wanted it, it's so important to them that it'd have a positive reputation on the brand of the players as well if they align themselves and put their hands in their pockets for it as well. Quick question here in the front, lady just here in the middle, third row back. Yes, thank you.
My name is Karuna Singh. I'm with the global environmental NGO called earthday.org. This year's theme, which we announce every year, for the last 55 years we have done that, is related to power and how to save it. Could we ask FC Barcelona to use that as a hook, that is Earth Day as a hook, to announce all the great work you are doing so that it inspires not only the fans that you have around, it showcases what more you are doing, and also inspires other stadiums to follow the example.
Well, technically, I'm not a spokesperson for Barcelona. However, I will say yes. That sounds fantastic.
You have leverage, though. Yeah. We are pretty much on time, but I think maybe we could have one more question, if it's okay. There was one here at the back, just in the middle row here on the left-hand side there. If you could stick your hand up again so they can see you behind. Excellent. There's a microphone coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. My name is Rebecca Huang, and I'm from International Climate Development Institute and currently working on TNFD report, passionate about carbon credits.
Yes.
Very inspiring presentation, Olivia. Thank you so much for it. My question is, you mentioned about incredible carbon projects that you invest in, and I'm curious about what's your criteria for selecting the high quality projects. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, we don't have 45 minutes or plus to go through all the different criteria, but suffice it to say that we are absolutely fixated on quality and integrity of the projects that we're investing in and that we're bringing to partners like FC Barcelona. Our team recently ran a statistic over the past 12 months. If we've reviewed 100 projects, less than 1% are those in which we'll take an investment position in and further our partnership with them. So you do have to be careful and you do have to be thoughtful and you have to partner with folks who have that same level of rigor and intensity for the integrity of the investments that they're making in those projects. But as so many of you all working in this space can attest, there are some incredible projects that are making huge impact in communities around the world. Whether those are technology-based engineered solutions that are amplifying natural processes that have occurred for millions and billions of years, or if they're pure nature-based projects that have incredible impact, there are absolutely projects around the world that are worthy of all of our time, and you just have to work with partners who can help you see those opportunities and not be distracted by potentially some projects that have lower quality standards associated with them.
Excellent, fantastic. Thank you, Olivia. I think unfortunately we are out of time. You've generated a lot of interest in the audience here.
Great.
We should
It
have
was
had a
a
longer
good video.
session here
Yeah.
today. Really interesting to talk about stadiums and what you're doing. I think because most of us have sort of a vested interest in it as well. But really interesting to hear how some of the things you're doing, the delivery model you're doing, how it can be applied to other sectors as well, which is super important. Getting, essentially sort of stepping in and leveraging the excitement and the will of customers and communities to sort of invest in this and create, good changes.
It's all about collaboration and partnerships and having that creative energy to be able to look at problems in a different light,
Yes.
to flip them on their head and say, here's actual opportunity for you if we think about it differently.
Excellent. Fantastic. Thank you very much for the time. Please join me in thanking Olivia. That was excellent. Thank you very much.